Tingnan mo. Tingnan mo buti. Tingnan mo buti. Sabi ko sa inyo, walang...
Sir, maliitan lang naman po ito eh.
Tama ang gawa mo, tsaka.
Alin dito ang dollar mo?
Pasok! Ano ba kaso namin? Find those keepers!
Sige, kaya nyo, and chicken to go ko, pero Filipino ako.
Away, tapos dadamay pa kayo ng ibang tao. Ano yan? Magkakaalaman na tayo. Hindi matay!
Nagmamakaangat ka pa dyan!
Sandali!
Boss, ito na yung mga napili. Pinasa mo naman.
Sige! Sige, tutukan tayo? Ha? Ha? Ano ba?
Tulungan niyo ako!
War Freak 1998 is a gritty Filipino action drama directed by Cesar Montano and Toto Natividad, released in Philippines on November 25, 1998. The film runs for nearly 2 hours and follows the intense story of a tough policeman whose violent past comes back to destroy the life he tried to rebuild. Before we jump into the story, if you enjoy deep movie explanations and intense action drama breakdowns, make sure to follow the channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now, the story begins in a dark and tense atmosphere where crime is rising and the city feels restless, a place where law and chaos constantly collide. In the middle of this troubled environment stands a man feared by criminals and respected by fellow officers, Police Officer Jack Lamas. The operation ends, the police department praises Jack for stopping the criminals, but not everyone is happy with his methods. Some senior officers believe he crosses the line too often and acts more like a soldier in a war than a police officer maintaining peace. This reputation slowly earns him a dangerous nickname among criminals and even some civilians. They begin calling him War Freak, a man who seems addicted to violence and confrontation. Jack pretends not to care about the name, but deep inside it reflects the darkness he carries within him. The film slowly hints that his anger and aggression are not random. They come from painful memories and mistakes buried in his past. Away from the violent streets, Jack tries to live a normal life. He has a girlfriend who genuinely cares about him and hopes that one day he will leave the dangerous world of crime fighting behind. With her, Jack shows a completely different side of his personality. Instead of the cold, fearless cop, he becomes quiet, thoughtful, and sometimes even vulnerable. She often worries about his safety because every day he goes out to confront criminals who would not hesitate to kill him. During one calm evening together, she asks Jack if he has ever thought about leaving the police force and starting a peaceful life somewhere far away from violence. Jack does not answer immediately. He simply looks away, as if the question awakens memories he has tried very hard to forget. Those memories begin to surface when rumors about Jack's past start spreading again. Years earlier, before the events of the film, Jack had a complicated relationship with a woman whose life eventually ended in tragedy. According to whispers around the city, Jack rejected her harshly and humiliated her, and the emotional pain pushed her towards suicide. Whether the story is completely true or exaggerated by gossip remains unclear, but one thing is certain: the woman's family believes Jack is responsible for her death. For years, they carried their anger silently, waiting for the right moment to make him suffer the same kind of loss they experienced. While Jack continues his daily duties as a police officer, he has no idea that someone is already watching him closely. In a dark house on the outskirts of the city, members of the woman's family gather together, discussing their long planned revenge. The atmosphere in the room is filled with bitterness and grief. Photographs of the woman who died are placed on the table, reminding everyone why they hate Jack Lamas so deeply. Instead of attacking him directly, they decide on a more painful plan, something that will destroy him emotionally before he even realizes what is happening. Their target will not be Jack himself, but the person he loves the most, his girlfriend. Back in the city, Jack's life appears calm for the moment. After another exhausting day at the police station, he meets his girlfriend at a small restaurant where they talk about ordinary things: work, friends, and future plans. The scene feels peaceful, almost warm, giving the audience a brief moment of calm before the storm. However, outside the restaurant, a suspicious car remains parked in the shadows. Inside the vehicle, two men watch Jack carefully, memorizing his movements and studying his routine. They are the first step of the revenge plan slowly unfolding. As the night continues, Jack drops his girlfriend at her apartment building and prepares to leave. Before he drives away, she smiles and reminds him to stay safe, unaware that danger is already surrounding them. The camera slowly shifts to the dark street corner, where the same suspicious car quietly starts its engine. The men inside follow Jack from a distance, making sure he does not notice them. Meanwhile, another group moves closer to the apartment building, silently preparing for the next stage of their revenge. The final moments of this opening chapter build a heavy sense of tension. Jack returns home after a long night, unaware that the past he tried to bury is finally coming back to haunt him. Somewhere in the city, people filled with anger are preparing to strike, and their plan is only beginning. The nickname War Freak, once just a rumor whispered by criminals, is about to become a reality as Jack Lamas is forced into a brutal fight, not only for justice but for the life of the woman he loves. And as the shadows close in around him, the stage is set for a violent chain of events that will test how far a man can go when revenge, guilt, and love collide. War Freak 1998 continues its dark and emotional story as the life of police officer Jack Lamas slowly begins to collapse under the weight of his past. Directed by Cesar Montano and Toto Natividad, the film takes place in the crime filled streets of the Philippines, where justice and revenge often walk side by side. If you enjoy intense movie explanations and crime stories filled with suspense and action, make sure to like the video, follow the channel, and comment your thoughts about the film. Now, the story moves forward as the quiet life Jack tried to build slowly begins to fall apart. The night after Jack drops his girlfriend at her apartment seems normal at first, but danger is already moving in the shadows. The group of men who have been watching Jack carefully begin their plan. They know attacking him directly would be difficult because he is a trained police officer who never lowers his guard. Instead, they focus on someone much more vulnerable, his girlfriend. Late that night, as the city grows quiet and most lights begin to turn off, a black car slowly stops near her apartment building. Two men step out, scanning the area to make sure no one is watching. Their movements are calm but calculated, showing that this attack has been planned for a long time. Inside the apartment, Jack's girlfriend is unaware of the danger approaching. She is preparing for bed, thinking about the conversation she had with Jack earlier in the evening. In her mind, she still hopes he will eventually leave the dangerous police work and start a peaceful life with her somewhere far away from crime and violence. But outside the building, footsteps echo quietly in the hallway as the attackers move closer to her door. The tension builds slowly as one of them knocks gently, pretending to be someone from the building management. When she opens the door slightly to see who it is, the men immediately force their way inside. The scene becomes chaotic and frightening. She tries to fight back and escape, but the attackers overpower her quickly. Their faces show cold determination, not just criminal greed, but deep personal hatred. One of them mentions Jack's name, making it clear that this is not a random crime. They want Jack Lamas to suffer the same emotional pain their family experienced years ago. After restraining her, they take her out of the apartment and push her into the waiting car before disappearing into the dark streets of the city. Meanwhile, Jack is at home, trying to rest after another exhausting day at the police department. He sits alone in the quiet room, staring at old case files scattered across the table. His life has always been surrounded by violence, but tonight something feels strangely unsettling. It is as if his instincts are warning him that something terrible is about to happen. Just as he tries to ignore the feeling and go to sleep, the phone suddenly rings, breaking the silence of the night. When Jack answers the phone, he hears a cold, unfamiliar voice on the other end. The man does not introduce himself. Instead, he calmly tells Jack that they have someone very important to him. At first, Jack thinks it is some kind of sick joke, but when the man describes his girlfriend in detail, the truth hits him like a punch to the chest. The caller warns him not to contact the police or try to trace the call. If he does, The consequences will be deadly. Before Jack can ask any questions, the line suddenly goes dead. For the first time in the film, the fearless police officer looks completely shaken. Jack immediately rushes out of his house and drives straight to his girlfriend's apartment. When he arrives, the front door is slightly open and the room inside looks disturbed, confirming his worst fears. Furniture is overturned and signs of a struggle are everywhere. In that moment, Jack realizes that this is not just another crime case, it is personal. As he stands in the middle of the destroyed apartment, memories from his past begin flooding back into his mind. The woman who died years ago, the accusations, the angry faces of her family members during the funeral. Jack had tried to move on and convince himself that the tragedy was not entirely his fault, but deep down he knows his actions played a role in what happened. Now it seems that the past has returned with brutal force. Back at the police station, Jack tries to remain calm while investigating the situation quietly. He does not fully trust everyone in the department because if the kidnappers are serious, involving too many officers could put his girlfriend in even greater danger. However, his closest partner notices something is wrong and pressures Jack to tell the truth. After a moment of hesitation, Jack finally reveals what happened. His partner is shocked but immediately offers to help, knowing that Jack would do the same for him. At the same time, the kidnappers keep their hostage hidden in an abandoned building somewhere far from the city center. The room is dark and silent, except for the sound of dripping water from broken pipes. Jack's girlfriend is tied to a chair, frightened but still determined to survive. The men guarding her talk among themselves about how Jack will soon understand the pain they felt when their sister died. Their plan is not just about revenge, it is about making Jack feel completely helpless. The second chapter ends with Jack standing alone outside the police station, looking out at the dark streets of the city. The anger inside him is slowly turning into something far more dangerous. The calm officer who once followed the law is beginning to disappear, replaced by the ruthless fighter criminals once feared. The nickname War Freak is about to become more than just a rumor, because Jack Lamas is now entering a war that is deeply personal, and he will stop at nothing to get the woman he loves back alive. War Freak 1998 continues to build its intense revenge driven story as police officer Jack Lamas finds himself trapped in a nightmare created by his own past. Directed by Cesar Montano and Toto Natividad, the film shows how a single mistake can return years later with devastating consequences. After the shocking kidnapping of his girlfriend, Jack realizes that the enemies he is facing are not ordinary criminals, but people who have been waiting for years to make him suffer. What began as a quiet night in the city of the Philippines has now turned into a personal war. The next morning, Jack arrives at the police station with a face filled with anger and exhaustion. He has barely slept during the night, constantly replaying the threatening phone call in his mind. His partner tries to convince him to officially report the kidnapping so the entire police force can help search for her, but Jack refuses. The kidnappers clearly warned him not to involve the police, and he knows they might kill her if they feel their plan is being disrupted. Instead, Jack decides to conduct his own investigation quietly while pretending that everything is normal. However, controlling his emotions becomes harder with every passing hour. Jack begins by revisiting the past he tried to bury for years. He pulls out old files and records connected to the woman whose suicide changed everything. Her death had been ruled a tragic personal decision, but her family never accepted that conclusion. According to the reports, she had been deeply in love with Jack, and when he rejected her publicly during a heated argument, the humiliation pushed her into depression. A few weeks later, she took her own life. At the time, Jack tried to move on and focus on his career, convincing himself that he was not responsible for her actions. But now, as he looks through the old photos and documents, guilt slowly begins creeping back into his mind. Meanwhile, in the abandoned building where the kidnappers are hiding, Jack's girlfriend remains tied to a chair in a dimly lit room. The men guarding her talk openly about their plan, making sure she understands why she was taken. One of them explains that she is not their real target. Jack is. They want him to feel fear, helplessness, and regret, the same emotions their family experienced after their sister's death. Although she is frightened, she refuses to beg for mercy, which frustrates the kidnappers even more. They expected their hostage to panic, but instead she tries to remain calm, hoping Jack will somehow find her before it is too late. Back in the city, Jack begins visiting places connected to the woman's family. He quietly questions people who might know where they are now, but most residents are too afraid to speak. The family had disappeared from the neighborhood years earlier, leaving behind only rumors and bitterness. Some people whisper that they moved to a remote area outside the city, while others claim they joined dangerous criminal groups. Every small clue pushes Jack deeper into the criminal underworld he once fought as a police officer. During his investigation, Jack finally meets an old informant who used to work for several gangs in the city. The man recognizes Jack immediately and becomes nervous, remembering the officer's brutal reputation. When Jack asks about the woman's family, the informant hesitates, but eventually reveals something important. He says that one of her brothers recently returned to the city and has been gathering men for something big. According to rumors, the man has been talking about revenge and making a certain policeman pay for his sins. Hearing this confirms Jack's worst fear. The kidnapping was carefully planned, and the people behind it have been preparing for years. Later that evening, Jack receives another phone call from the kidnappers. This time, the voice on the line is more confident and cruel. The man tells Jack that they know he has started investigating, and they warn him again not to involve the police. To prove that they are serious, they allow Jack to briefly speak with his girlfriend. Her voice sounds tired but determined as she tells him not to blame himself and to stay careful. Before Jack can ask where she is being held, the kidnapper snatches the phone back and laughs coldly before hanging up. The short conversation both relieves and terrifies Jack. At least he knows she is still alive, but the clock is clearly ticking. The kidnappers want him to feel pressure and panic, They are turning the entire situation into a psychological game, slowly breaking him down. For the first time, Jack begins to understand that this conflict is not just about rescuing someone, it is about confronting the consequences of his own past decisions. As night falls over the city again, Jack sits alone in his car outside the police station. The streets are quiet, but inside his mind, a storm is growing. His partner approaches the car and once again offers help, reminding Jack that he does not have to face everything alone. After a long silence, Jack finally admits something he has never openly said before. He regrets how he treated the woman who died years ago. If he had handled the situation differently, none of this might have happened. But regret will not save his girlfriend now. Jack realizes that the only way to stop the people hunting him is to confront them directly. The fearless police officer who criminals once called war freak is slowly returning. However, this time the battle is not about law or justice. It is about survival and redemption. War Freak 1998 continues its dark and emotional journey as the life of police officer Jack Lama spirals deeper into danger. Directed by Cesar Montano and Toto Natividad, the film shows how revenge slowly consumes everyone involved. Jack is no longer just a police officer searching for criminals. He is now a desperate man trying to save the woman he loves while confronting the mistakes of his past in the violent streets of the Philippines. After discovering that the brother of the woman who died years ago has returned to the city, Jack follows the only lead he has. The information from his old informant points toward a rundown district known for illegal gambling houses, underground fights, and criminal hideouts. It is a dangerous area even for police officers, but Jack has entered places like this many times before. As he drives through the narrow streets late at night, neon lights flicker from broken signboards while groups of suspicious men watch every passing car. The atmosphere feels tense, and Jack knows that one wrong move could expose him. Jack parks his car a few blocks away and walks into a crowded bar where criminals often gather. The room is filled with loud music, smoke, and rough-looking men who instantly recognize him. His reputation as a ruthless cop has spread through the underworld, and many people here either fear him or hate him. Conversations slowly die down as he steps inside. Jack ignores the hostile stares and walks straight to the bar counter, scanning the room carefully. He is searching for someone connected to the woman's family, someone who might know where the kidnappers are hiding. At first, no one wants to speak with him, but Jack finally notices a man sitting alone in the corner. The man appears nervous the moment their eyes meet, which tells Jack he knows something important. Jack approaches him slowly and sits down without asking permission. The conversation begins quietly, but tension quickly rises. The man denies knowing anything about the kidnapping, yet his shaking hands reveal the truth. Jack grabs him by the collar and warns him that if his girlfriend dies, everyone connected to this crime will regret it. The threat works, and the frightened man finally reveals a crucial piece of information. According to him, the woman's brother has been seen meeting several armed men in an abandoned industrial area outside the city. The place used to be a factory years ago, but now it is mostly empty buildings surrounded by broken fences and rusted machines. Criminal groups sometimes use the location as a hideout because the police rarely patrol that far. Hearing this, Jack realizes that it might be the place where the kidnappers are keeping his girlfriend. Meanwhile, inside the abandoned building, the kidnappers continue guarding their hostage. The leader of the group, the woman's brother, watches Jack's girlfriend with cold anger. To him, she is simply a tool in a much bigger plan. He explains to the other men that killing her immediately would be too easy. Their goal is to make Jack suffer slowly, just as their family suffered after their sister's death. He wants Jack to feel fear, guilt, and helplessness before the final confrontation happens. Despite being tied up and surrounded by dangerous criminals, Jack's girlfriend refuses to give them the reaction they expect. She remains strong and silent, refusing to cry or beg. Her courage begins to irritate the kidnappers, especially the leader, who expected her to break down quickly. Instead, she calmly tells them that Jack will find her no matter what they do. Her confidence creates an uncomfortable silence in the room because deep down, even the kidnappers know Jack Lamas is not an ordinary man. Back in the city, Jack prepares for what could become the most dangerous mission of his life. He knows the abandoned factory area is likely filled with armed men, and going there alone could easily turn into a suicide mission. His partner once again offers to bring a team of officers, but Jack refuses. If too many police cars arrive, the kidnappers might panic and kill the hostage immediately. This rescue must be handled quietly and carefully. Before leaving, Jack loads his weapon and checks every detail of his plan. The calm expression on his face hides the storm of emotions inside him: fear for the woman he loves, anger toward the people responsible, and guilt for the tragedy that started everything years ago. In this moment, he fully accepts that the past cannot be changed, but the future can still be fought for. Late that night, Jack drives toward the abandoned industrial zone described by the informant. The road becomes darker and emptier the further he travels from the city. Broken street lights flicker above the cracked asphalt, while distant factory buildings appear like giant shadows in the night. Every instinct in Jack's body tells him he is walking into a trap, yet turning back is no longer an option. As he parks near the rusted gates of the abandoned factory, Jack steps out of the car and looks toward the silent buildings ahead. Somewhere inside those walls, the people who hate him are waiting, and the woman he loves is depending on him to reach her in time. War Freak 1998 moves into a more intense and dangerous phase as Jack Lamas finally reaches the abandoned industrial area where he believes the kidnappers are hiding. Directed by Cesar Montano and Toto Natividad, the film now shifts from investigation to direct confrontation. The quiet rescue mission Jack planned is about to turn into a brutal fight for survival in the dark outskirts of the Philippines. Jack carefully steps through the broken gate of the abandoned factory compound. The entire place is silent except for the sound of wind moving through rusted metal structures. Old machines and empty storage containers create long shadows under the weak moonlight, making it difficult to see clearly. Jack moves slowly and quietly, scanning every corner while keeping his weapon ready. His years of police training help him stay calm. But inside, he knows this place could be full of armed men waiting to ambush him. After moving deeper into the compound, Jack finally notices faint light coming from one of the large warehouse buildings. The building looks abandoned from the outside, but the dim light inside suggests someone is there. Jack hides behind a stack of broken crates and carefully observes the area. A few minutes later, he sees two armed men standing near the entrance, smoking and talking casually. Their relaxed behavior confirms that this place is indeed being used as a hideout. Jack realizes that if those men are outside guarding the entrance, there must be more people inside. Meanwhile, inside the warehouse, Jack's girlfriend is still tied to the chair in the middle of the room. The kidnappers have been holding her there for hours, and the tension among them is starting to grow. Some of the men are becoming impatient and want to finish the plan quickly. But the leader, the brother of the woman who died years ago, refuses to rush things. To him, this is not just about revenge, it is about making Jack feel the same helplessness his family once felt. He wants Jack to arrive and witness the consequences of his past before anything else happens. Back outside, Jack studies the guards carefully and begins planning his next move. Attacking them directly could alert everyone inside the warehouse, putting the hostage in immediate danger. Instead, he decides to eliminate them quietly. Waiting for the right moment, Jack slowly circles around the building until he finds a darker corner near the entrance. When one of the guards walks away from the other for a moment, Jack suddenly attacks from behind, knocking the man unconscious before he can react. The second guard notices something is wrong and turns around, but before he can raise his weapon, Jack moves quickly and disarms him. A short but brutal fight follows, ending with the guard lying on the ground unable to move. Jack drags both men out of sight and takes one of their weapons. Now he knows that the next steps will be far more dangerous because the real enemies are still inside the building. Inside the warehouse, the kidnappers suddenly hear a faint noise outside. One of them goes to check the entrance but sees nothing suspicious at first glance. The silence returns, but the leader becomes cautious. He senses that something is not right and orders the men to stay alert. Jack, now hiding inside the building, moves slowly between stacks of boxes and broken equipment, trying to locate the room where his girlfriend is being held. The tension grows as Jack hears voices coming from deeper inside the warehouse. Following the sound carefully, he eventually reaches a hallway where two more armed men are standing guard. Through a small opening in the door behind them, he briefly sees his girlfriend tied to a chair. The sight fills him with both relief and anger. She is alive but surrounded by dangerous criminals who are ready to kill. Jack realizes that rushing into the room would almost certainly get her killed. Instead, he waits patiently in the shadows, studying the guards' movements and listening to their conversation. They mention their leader's plan to call Jack soon and force him to come to the warehouse alone. Hearing this confirms that Jack has walked directly into the trap they prepared. As the minutes pass, Jack's mind races with different possibilities. Every second matters, yet one wrong decision could end everything. The fearless police officer who criminals once called war freak must now rely on patience instead of aggression. For the first time in the film, he understands that winning this battle will require more than just strength. It will require perfect timing. War Freak, 1998, pushes the tension even higher as police officer Jack Llamas moves deeper into the kidnapper's hideout. Directed by Cesar Montano and Toto Natividad, the story now reaches a critical stage where every move could decide life or death. Jack is only a few meters away from rescuing his girlfriend, but the enemies waiting inside the warehouse are armed, angry, and ready for violence in the dark outskirts of the Philippines. Hidden in the shadows of the narrow hallway, Jack carefully studies the two guards standing outside the room where his girlfriend is tied up. Their conversation reveals that the kidnappers are still confident that Jack has not discovered their location. They believe they have complete control over the situation, which gives Jack a small advantage. However, the problem remains the same. If he attacks the guards too loudly, the men inside the room will hear the commotion and may harm the hostage immediately. Jack watches their movements patiently, waiting for the perfect moment. One of the guards eventually becomes bored and walks a few steps away from the door to light a cigarette. The other guard leans casually against the wall, unaware that danger is only a few steps away. Jack quietly approaches from behind and strikes quickly, knocking the first guard unconscious before he can react. The second man hears the sudden noise and turns around in shock, but Jack moves faster, grabbing him and forcing him against the wall. After a brief struggle, the guard collapses to the floor. For a moment, the hallway becomes silent again. Jack quickly drags both men away from the door and takes their weapons. Now nothing stands between him and the room where his girlfriend is being held. But he knows the real threat is still inside with the leader of the kidnappers and several other armed men. Inside the room, the kidnappers continue arguing about what to do next. Some of them are becoming impatient and want to finish the revenge plan immediately. The leader, however, insists that Jack must be forced to watch everything before the final act. To him, the psychological suffering is more important than simple violence. He wants Jack to understand exactly why this revenge is happening. Jack slowly opens the door just enough to see inside. The scene fills him with anger. His girlfriend is sitting in the center of the room, tied to a chair, while three armed men stand nearby. The leader is speaking about his sister, explaining how her death destroyed their family. Every word he says is filled with years of pain and resentment. Even though Jack is listening from the shadows, the weight of the accusation feels heavy on his mind. Jack realizes he cannot wait any longer. If the kidnappers decide to act before he intervenes, the situation could become irreversible. Taking a deep breath, he pushes the door open and steps into the room with his weapon raised. The sudden appearance of the armed police officer shocks everyone inside. For a brief second, the room freezes in complete silence. Then chaos erupts. One of the kidnappers immediately reaches for his gun, but Jack fires first, hitting the weapon out of the man's hand. Another attacker charges toward him, and a brutal fight begins in the middle of the room. Jack's police training and survival instincts take over as he fights with controlled aggression, knocking down one opponent after another. The sound of gunshots echoes through the warehouse, breaking the silence of the abandoned factory. In the middle of the chaos, the leader grabs Jack's girlfriend and holds a gun to her head, forcing Jack to stop. The entire room falls silent again as the two men stare at each other. The leader's face is filled with rage, but also a strange sense of satisfaction. This is the moment he has waited for, finally confronting the man he blames for his sister's death. He begins shouting at Jack, accusing him of destroying their family with his cruel rejection years earlier. Jack listens silently, knowing that arguing will only make the situation worse. For the first time, he admits that he regrets how things happened in the past, but he also tells the man that killing another innocent person will not bring his sister back. The words only make the leader angrier. To him, Jack's apology means nothing after so many years of pain. His finger slowly tightens on the trigger while Jack stands helplessly a few steps away. War Freak, 1998, now reaches one of its most intense turning points as the confrontation between Jack Lamas and the kidnappers becomes unavoidable. Directed by Cesar Montano and Toto Natividad, the film dives deeper into themes of revenge, guilt, and justice. Standing in the dark warehouse somewhere on the outskirts of the Philippines, Jack faces the man who has been waiting for years to destroy him. The life of his girlfriend hangs by a thread, and one wrong move could end everything. If you enjoy intense crime stories and powerful movie explanations like this, make sure to like the video, follow the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Inside the warehouse, the atmosphere becomes suffocatingly tense. The leader of the kidnappers grips Jack's girlfriend tightly while pressing a gun against her head. His eyes burn with hatred as he stares directly at Jack. Years of anger, pain, and resentment have built up inside him, and now he finally has the man responsible standing helplessly in front of him. Jack keeps his weapon lowered, understanding that even the smallest sudden movement could cause the man to pull the trigger. For a moment, the entire room is silent except for the faint echo of distant wind moving through the broken windows of the factory. The leader begins speaking slowly, almost calmly, but every word is filled with bitterness. He reminds Jack of the woman who died years ago, his sister. According to him, she truly loved Jack and believed he would marry her one day. But when Jack rejected her publicly and humiliated her in front of others, the emotional pain destroyed her completely. She became depressed, isolated, and eventually took her own life. The man explains that their family never recovered from that tragedy. Their parents fell into deep grief, and their home was filled with silence and anger for years. As he continues talking, the other kidnappers listen quietly, their expressions showing that they also believe Jack deserves punishment. To them, this revenge is not just about one man's anger, it represents justice for the pain their family suffered. Jack listens without interrupting because deep inside he knows there is some truth in what the man is saying. Although he never intended to cause such a tragedy, his careless words and actions played a role in what happened. Jack finally speaks, admitting that he regrets the past. He explains that he was young, arrogant, and focused only on his career at the time. He never imagined that rejecting someone could lead to such a devastating outcome. But he also tells the man that revenge will not fix the past or bring his sister back. Killing another innocent person will only create more pain and destruction. His voice remains calm, but his eyes reveal how serious he is. The leader, however, refuses to accept Jack's explanation. To him, Jack's apology comes far too late. He believes the only way to balance the pain their family suffered is by making Jack experience the same level of loss. That is why he kidnapped Jack's girlfriend instead of attacking Jack directly. Watching someone you love die, he says, is the worst punishment a person can experience. Meanwhile, Jack's girlfriend remains incredibly brave despite the terrifying situation. Although fear is clearly visible in her eyes, she refuses to beg for her life. Instead, she looks at Jack and quietly tells him not to blame himself for what is happening. Her calm words confuse the kidnappers, who expected her to panic and cry. Instead, she shows a strength that makes even the leader hesitate for a brief moment. At that exact moment, one of the wounded kidnappers who had been knocked down earlier slowly tries to reach for a weapon on the floor. Jack notices the movement instantly, realizing that the situation could explode into violence again at any second. Jack prepares himself mentally. He knows that if a shootout begins, his girlfriend could be caught in the crossfire. The pressure of making the right decision becomes almost unbearable. The leader continues shouting at Jack, accusing him of destroying lives without caring about the consequences. Jack does not deny the accusations completely, but he refuses to accept that revenge is the answer. He insists that everyone in the room still has a choice. The cycle of violence can end right here if they simply let the hostage go and walk away. But the kidnappers have gone too far to turn back now. Years of hatred cannot disappear in a single conversation. The leader's anger grows stronger again, and his grip on the gun tightens. The moment feels like the final breaking point. Suddenly, the wounded kidnapper on the floor grabs the weapon and tries to fire at Jack. The loud gunshot echoes through the warehouse and instantly shatters the fragile moment of calm. Jack reacts with incredible speed, diving to the side and returning fire. Chaos erupts once again as the room fills with the sound of gunshots and shouting. In the confusion, the leader loses control of the hostage for a split second. Jack's girlfriend struggles against his grip, creating the opportunity Jack desperately needed. Jack fires another shot, forcing the leader to step back and drop his weapon. The remaining kidnappers panic as the situation rapidly turns against them. War Freak 1998 enters its final and most violent phase as the warehouse turns into a full scale battlefield. Directed by Cesar Montano and Toto Natividad, the film now shows the consequences of revenge reaching its breaking point. Inside this abandoned industrial site in the Philippines, Jack Llamas is no longer just a policeman. He's a man fighting for survival, love, and redemption at the same time. After the sudden gunfire erupts inside the warehouse, everything turns into chaos. The echo of bullets fills the large empty space, bouncing off metal walls and broken machinery. Jack immediately moves behind cover, pulling his girlfriend away from the direct line of fire. The kidnappers scatter in different directions, trying to regain control of the situation. Some of them are injured, others panic, but the leader still refuses to give up. His hatred for Jack is too strong, and even in chaos, he is determined to finish what he started. Jack quickly assesses the situation. He realizes that the kidnappers are now disorganized, which gives him a small advantage. However, the danger is still extremely high because his girlfriend is caught in the middle. One wrong shot could end her life instantly. Jack signals her to stay low and not move, while he carefully takes down one of the attackers who tries to flank him from the side. The fight becomes close and brutal, with hand to hand combat mixing with gunfire in tight spaces. The leader, watching his men fall one by one, becomes more desperate. He grabs Jack's girlfriend again and drags her toward the center of the warehouse, using her as a shield. He shouts that Jack will never be able to save her without sacrificing himself. This creates a deadly standoff where both men are forced to aim their weapons at each other, but the hostage stands directly in between them. Jack slowly steps forward, trying to keep his voice calm. He tells the leader that killing her will not bring his sister back, but only destroy what little humanity he has left. The leader laughs bitterly, saying that humanity disappeared the day his sister died. To him, Jack represents everything he lost: love, peace, and family. Now all that remains is revenge. At this moment, Jack notices something important. The leader's hand is shaking slightly. His emotions are unstable, and his anger is affecting his control. Jack understands that if he can trigger even a small hesitation, he might get a chance to act. He begins speaking again, this time mentioning the sister directly, but in a softer tone. He says that if she could see what he has become now, she would not want him to continue this path. For a brief moment, the leader's expression changes. His grip on the gun tightens and loosens repeatedly as memories of his sister start flashing in his mind. The warehouse becomes silent except for their breathing. Even the remaining kidnappers stop moving, sensing that something critical is about to happen. Jack takes a slow step forward. The leader raises his gun, but his eyes are no longer fully focused. Emotion and rage are clashing inside him. Jack continues speaking, telling him that revenge has already destroyed enough lives. The sister's death was tragic, but turning into a murderer will not honor her memory. That final sentence triggers something deep inside the leader. His hand shakes violently now. For a second, it looks like he might lower the weapon. But then the anger returns stronger than before, and he pulls the trigger in desperation. At the same time, Jack reacts instantly, pushing forward to break the line of fire. A loud gunshot explodes through the warehouse. The chaos returns immediately. Jack tackles the leader, and both men crash into the ground near a pile of broken metal containers. The fight becomes physical and brutal, with punches, struggle, and desperation replacing strategy. The leader fights like a man possessed, refusing to let go of his revenge even while injured. Meanwhile, Jack's girlfriend manages to break free for a moment and runs toward cover. One of the remaining kidnappers tries to stop her, but Jack quickly intervenes, knocking the attacker down with a powerful strike. The warehouse is now filled with smoke, shouting, and the sound of collapsing equipment as the battle reaches its peak. Jack finally gains control over the leader after a fierce struggle. The gun falls to the ground, sliding across the metal floor. Both men are exhausted, breathing heavily, staring at each other with years of pain and anger between them. The leader is injured and unable to continue fighting, but his hatred has not completely disappeared. Jack stands up slowly, holding the gun but not pointing it immediately. He looks at the man who destroyed his peaceful life, then glances at his girlfriend who is now safe but shaken. The decision in front of him is heavy. whether to end the cycle of violence completely or risk continuing it. After the intense struggle, Jack manages to overpower the leader of the kidnappers. Both men are exhausted, injured, and breathing heavily on the cold metal floor of the warehouse. The gun lies nearby, but neither of them reaches for it immediately. Instead, they stare at each other in silence, as if trying to understand how everything reached this point. The leader's face is filled with anger, pain, and disbelief that his carefully planned revenge is falling apart. Jack slowly gets up, still alert, but no longer acting with blind aggression. He glances toward his girlfriend, who is now safely behind cover. She is shaken but alive, which gives Jack a brief sense of relief. However, the danger is not fully over yet. A few remaining kidnappers are still in the warehouse, some injured and others trying to escape. The chaos has not completely settled, and any sudden movement could restart the violence. The leader, lying on the ground, begins speaking again in a weaker voice. His anger has not fully disappeared, but now it is mixed with exhaustion and regret. He tells Jack that even if he loses today, the pain of his sister's death will never leave him. For years, that pain was the only thing keeping him alive. Jack listens quietly, understanding that this man is not just a criminal, but someone completely consumed by grief. Jack responds in a calmer tone than before. He says that he understands loss, but turning that pain into destruction only creates more victims. He reminds the leader that his sister would not want him to destroy innocent lives for her sake. This moment creates a strange silence between them. For the first time, the leader does not immediately respond with anger. Instead, he looks away, as if struggling with his own emotions. In the background, sirens can now be heard faintly approaching the area. The gunfire and explosions have finally attracted attention from authorities. The remaining kidnappers panic as they realize the police are coming. Some attempt to escape through the broken exits of the warehouse, while others surrender out of fear. The carefully planned revenge mission is completely collapsing. Jack knows time is running out. He quickly ensures his girlfriend is safe and guides her toward a more secure area inside the building. Even though she is exhausted and traumatized, she trusts him completely. This moment highlights the emotional connection between them. She survived because Jack never gave up, and Jack fought because she gave him a reason to keep going. Back near the center of the warehouse, the leader struggles to sit up. His strength is fading, both physically and mentally. The revenge that kept him alive for so many years is now slipping away. He looks at Jack one last time, and this time there is no immediate hatred in his eyes. Only emptiness and sorrow remain. Jack knees down slightly, still cautious, but no longer aggressive. He tells the man that it is not too late to stop the cycle of violence completely. He says that if he truly loved his sister, he should let go of this hatred instead of passing it on to more innocent people. The words hit harder this time because the leader has nothing left to prove or defend. For a moment, it seems like he might finally accept defeat, not just physically but emotionally. His grip on the past weakens as the reality of everything that has happened sinks in. The revenge he spent years planning has not brought peace, only destruction. His family's pain has only created more suffering. As police sirens grow louder outside, the remaining kidnappers either flee or surrender. The warehouse is now filled with smoke, silence, and the aftermath of violence. Jack stands between the fallen enemies and the safety of the woman he saved, realizing that the battle is finally coming to an end. As police sirens grow louder outside the warehouse, the remaining criminals either flee in panic or surrender without resistance. The once chaotic battlefield slowly turns into silence, broken only by distant emergency lights flashing through the broken windows. Jack carefully ensures that his girlfriend is safe and away from any remaining danger. She is exhausted, injured, and emotionally shaken, but she is alive. That alone becomes the only thing that matters to Jack in this moment. Inside the warehouse, the leader of the kidnappers lies weakened and defeated. His body is injured and his strength has completely faded after the intense fight. Jack stands a few steps away, still alert but no longer aggressive. For the first time, there is no immediate violence between them. Instead, there is silence, heavy, emotional silence, filled with everything that has happened between them. The leader struggles to speak, his voice weak and broken. He no longer holds the same anger he had earlier. Instead, what remains is emptiness and exhaustion. He tells Jack that everything he did was driven by pain, the loss of his sister, the destruction of his family, and years of hatred that never healed. But now, after everything, he realizes that revenge did not bring him peace. It only destroyed what little humanity he had left. Jack listens quietly. He does not interrupt. He understands now that this man is not just an enemy but also a victim of unresolved grief. Jack finally speaks in a calm tone, saying that holding on to hatred for so long only creates more suffering. He admits that his own actions in the past contributed to this tragedy, but continuing the cycle of revenge would only make everything worse. For a moment, the leader says nothing. The sound of approaching police vehicles grows louder outside the building. The final arrest or surrender is about to happen. The leader looks at Jack one last time, not with hatred anymore, but with a strange sense of acceptance. Years of anger have finally reached their end point. Outside the warehouse, the early signs of dawn begin to appear in the sky. Jack stands with his girlfriend beside him, both of them looking exhausted but alive. The city lights reflect faintly on the broken structures of the factory. For Jack, this moment feels like the end of a long nightmare. The man known as War Freak is still there, but something inside him has changed permanently. His girlfriend thanks him quietly for saving her life. Jack does not respond immediately. Instead, he simply looks at the horizon, thinking about everything that has happened, the mistakes of his past, the violence of the present, and the uncertain future ahead. He understands that even though this battle is over, the emotional scars will remain.